Welcome to Mazungumzo, African Scholarly Conversations, a podcast that highlights the perspectives of various stakeholders in academia and research fields across Africa through open dialogue or Mazungumzo on scholarly communication in Africa.
Welcome to Mazungumzo, African Scholarly Conversations, where we are joined by an expansive list of African policymakers, science communication specialists, innovators, and tertiary institution leads who contribute to this realm of scholarly and science communication. I'm your host, Joy Owango, the Executive Director of the Training Center in Communication, TCC Africa, Capacity Building Trust based at the University of Nairobi, Chiromo campus in Nairobi, Kenya. Today, we are honored to be joined by Professor Nelson Ijumba, a distinguished academic leader whose career spans over 40 years, during which he has made significant contributions to higher education and research across Africa. Professor Ijumba has held prominent leadership positions at various universities, including as Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs and Research, and Emeritus Professor of Electrical Engineering at the University of Rwanda, as well as Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research and Honorary Professor of the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. He currently serves as the International Research and Innovation Program Manager at Coventry University's Africa Hub. A warm welcome to the program, Professor Ijumba.
Thank you very much, Joy. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners, wherever they are. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast.
You are most welcome. You're most welcome. So to begin with, Professor Ijumba, what first inspired you to pursue an academic career path? Was becoming a scholar always your driving passion, or do you have different ambitions initially? Did you have different ambitions initially before finding your calling in academia?
I think I was fortunate enough that, first of all, I had an interest in sharing knowledge, I think, but not necessarily as an academic. But also, when I was young, part of my formative years, I grew up on a university campus because my father was working there. So that scenario of university settings and so on made me think about a career in academics. But I think I was fortunate that when I went for my first year in engineering, we were the first batch to be admitted into the engineering program of the University of Dar es Salaam.
Right.
And that's when the university was starting. So they are looking for staff for academic staff programs. So when we finished after my first year undergraduate degree, quite a number of us, all of us who got first class honors from the different departments were recruited into becoming tutorial assistants. And I think that's what started my academic career. And because the university was engaged in a staff development program, we got government supported scholarship from different donors, and we went for higher studies. So that's how my career in academics started. I got a British Council scholarship to go to UK for my master's. Then I got a Dutch scholarship to do my PhD. I also got fellowship to do industrial training and so on. So that's how I was, in a way, ushered into the academic career because of the fact that I came to the university at the right time, or I graduated from engineering at the right time when they were looking for academics to support as part of their staff development program. Yeah.
Okay, so that means you started your career in Tanzania, and then you found yourself in South Africa before moving to Rwanda. So, at what point did you move to South Africa?
Well, actually, I was at the University of Dar es Salaam until when I finished my PhD. I came back, served for I think 2 years.
Okay.
Then by good chance, I got an opportunity at the University of Nairobi. So I moved over to the University of Nairobi, where I stayed for 6 years, from 1989 to 1995.
So you're actually in
August.
Kenya. That's good. Yes.
I worked at the University of Nairobi, so I know Chiromo campus, I know all those areas. I was in the electrical engineering department
Okay.
next to Norfolk Hotel,
Yes.
opposite
Yes.
the admin building. Yeah. So
Yes.
in 1995, that's when I went to South Africa
Okay.
at the University of it was called the
KwaZulu
University of
Natal.
Durban West. At
Oh,
that time, it
Durban.
was the University of Durban Westville.
Uh,
And then, if you recall, there was a transformation or restructuring of the higher education. It
yes.
was
Yes.
merged with the University of Natal to form the University
Yes.
of KwaZulu-Natal. Yeah.
Yes.
So from
Yes.
about 2000, it was the University of KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay.
And then
And at that,
yes, go
please
ahead.
continue. Continue.
So I was at the University of Durban Westville. Then we moved to the university. It's merged to become the University of KwaZulu-Natal. I served as dean for about 6 years of engineering. And then after that, I applied for the post of Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research in the same university, where I served for 5 years until my retirement age.
Yeah.
And then fortunately, that's when there was a restructuring of the higher education sector in Rwanda. And I got a post to head the academic affairs and research at the newly formed university in Rwanda.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're looking at your experience having worked in Tanzania, and then and then in Kenya, but then getting into leadership within the university in South Africa. How did that influence your position within the University of Rwanda? Because you came in the University of Rwanda as the deputy vice chancellor of academic affairs and research. So how did that influence your activities within the university? Because in 2013, the government of Rwanda took a significant step in merging the 7 public higher education institutions and consolidating it into the University of Rwanda.
Yes.
So how did your previous experience help influence in being part of this conversation? Yeah.
Actually, it helped very much in the sense that when I was at the University of Durban Westville, there was this merger of the University of Durban Westville and the University of Natal.
Yes.
Now, if you are aware of the history of education in South Africa, it was highly segregated.
Right.
So the University of Durban Westville was primarily an Indian university. It was established to cater for the Indian community. On the other hand, the University of Natal was for the white community. So now these were merged. So you can imagine the histories, the perceptions, it was like merging an historically white university with an historically black university.
Right.
So I was the dean at the University of Durban West. So I was responsible for creating or driving the newly formed Faculty of Engineering, which was as a merger of the 2 faculties. So there are lots of transformational changes dealing with resistance to change, harmonization of resources, combining students, changing curriculum. That was a very big experience on my part. Then when I became DVC, the university underwent restructuring from a faculty model to a college model.
Right.
And I was responsible for driving the research portfolio through that transformation. So I'd gone through, if you like, experience of an institution that went through changes of the merger and then of the restructuring. So when I came to Rwanda, it was almost a similar situation, because now we are looking at the merging of a number of institutions to colleges, and they had to run a new institution from an old one. So that experience was very, very helpful for me.
Okay. So I'm curious to understand the role you played and your vantage point on the key motivations and objectives driving this ambitious restructuring program within the University of Rwanda. Because at that point, it was the National University of Rwanda, and then with the 7 colleges. Now it was restructured into one institute, as the University of Rwanda. So what was your role in this process? And what, as a higher education leader, what should you look out for when you're going through such kind of restructuring processes within your institution?
Okay. So the creation of the University of Rwanda had two phases.
Right.
The first phase was the committee that was appointed to look at the whole process on how it was to be done. They went all over the country, interviewed people, and finally they delivered a report, which was then approved by government. So I came in as part of phase two.
Okay.
We were appointed to implement now the recommendations of the report that was drawn by a team that was appointed by the government to look at the measure. So I was not part of phase one,
Okay.
but I was part of phase two, where a team of leaders were appointed, and I was appointed as Deputy Vice Chancellor responsible for academic affairs and research. It started in October 2013, but I actually joined the university in January 2014. And my responsibility was really to look at the academic structure in terms of rationalization, harmonization. You need to remember that these the colleges that constituted the University of Rwanda were formerly fully fledged higher learning institutions. Some were institutes, others were universities, like you mentioned, the University of Rwanda, but there was SFB, there was an institute for agriculture, there was one for health, there was one for education. So these were actually like degree awarding institutions. Some of them were mainly using undergraduates. Others were doing a bit of research, but it's only the University of Rwanda the National University of Rwanda, which was like a comprehensive university, giving degrees, postgraduate training, and so on. So we had this task of harmonization of the academic structure, and also the university demanded to be a research-led university, so they took it out to increase productivity, develop postgraduate programs, and then also the issue of operations, making sure that it was an efficient university. Now, if you are aware of the University of Rwanda, it is spread over different parts of the country.
Yes,
Some
it is.
colleges had programs on different campuses. So it took a lot of energy and policy development and so on to make sure that we operated and harmonized the institution. And that was the issue. But probably the biggest problem was looking at how to address fears of people in terms of resistance to change.
Right.
Yeah, people are used to like NUR. It took a long time. I remember in many meetings we had, the feature was when I was at the National University of Rwanda, when I was at SFB. So we had to get rid of these kind of sentiments.
Yes.
And then even for students, there are people who believe that, okay, the quality of the degree offered by the National University of Rwanda was better than other institutions. So we had to look at how to make sure to get rid of those problems. So I must say, in terms of the staff and students, you can say there are three groups.
Okay.
There are those who were progressive enough to accept the measure. They say it's a new thing, it's a good thing, we are going to get a better institution. There are those who are totally opposed.
Okay.
And then you have the skeptics, who are probably the majority, who are like, let's wait and see. They are going with the flow depending on what was happening. So we had to do a lot of meetings, a lot of communication, a lot of, and the policies that we put in place, some of them had a lot of incentives, had a lot of things that were going to be different from what was happening in the previous institution.
Yes.
One of the biggest game changer, I must say, was addressing the promotions policy.
Right.
Because in many of the universities, of those institutions that were merged, promotions were really not very straightforward. And it was like you had to it was, there are lots of, there was a lot of unhappiness about the promotion in all the institutions that were merged. So we had to find a policy that addressed the issue of promotion. One of the problems was that, for example, when it came to publishing, in the previous institutions, they were splitting points. So if you publish with 10 people, you got 0.1 of the points.
Oh,
And that discouraged people from working together.
right.
Which means that it was not possible even for senior academics to work with young academics and publish with them. So there was a lot of individualism in terms of publishing because people wanted to share their points. So the first thing we did in that policy of promotion, we said, if you're part of a paper, you get a point. Whatever score is given to that paper, you get that score as well. And that really freed senior academics to work with young academics and publish with them. They promoted, it promoted collaboration, which I think was one of the major achievements of that promotion process. Of course, we put in other measures to be able to promote research. If I can mention about research, first of all,
yes,
not many staff had PhDs. For example, at the time when the University of Rwanda started, only about 14 or 15% of the staff had PhDs.
right.
So, and you can't build a research university if you've got such a low proportion of staff with
Yes.
PhDs. You need at least 60-65%.
Yes.
So, secondly, as I mentioned, people are not publishing because either they didn't know how to publish, or if they are publishing, it was not even known because people didn't want to make it known that I'm publishing. There was no what you may call the kind of vibrance you have in a research
institution or university
where people work together and publish. So we had to put in policies to encourage people or even to force people to register for PhDs. Then those who had PhDs were not supervising. Actual supervision was like a sideshow. People concentrated more in teaching than either postgraduate teaching or supervision.
Okay.
So we had to convince people or compel people to supervise, and we realized that some of them didn't want to supervise because they didn't know how. So we had to develop policies and also put in a training program to teach people how to supervise. That made a big difference, okay, in terms of people wanting now to supervise PhD. And we also made it part of the requirements, PhD supervision, they are part of the criteria for promotion, which also encouraged me. So our policies and procedures were like carrot and stick approach. There are some which are encouraging, and if you are not encouraged, you are sort of sticked in a way. And that also helped. But I think the biggest challenge was also the fact that the university was spread all over the place.
Right.
So things like I mentioned colleges which were operating on different campuses with different programs. It was difficult but we managed to harmonize the curriculum so that people are following the same curriculum. And then of course, when it came to meetings, we had to minimize traveling up and down. And we tried to introduce online meetings. It was not possible. And if you recall the experience of many universities, the adoption of online processes came because of COVID. Which accelerated the acceptance of online processes. So apart from also harmonizing and rationalizing curriculum, we had to modernize it because some of the curriculum was very old. So there was a lot of curriculum transformation, which again contributed to the university improving a lot. Yeah. So if I can mention the challenges faced, just to summarize, one was curriculum rationalization and harmonization, which was because, as I said, there were different institutions offering sometimes the same program, so we had to really rationalize the academic structure, and also harmonize where same programs are offered on the same campus. Then, of course, we introduced things like online teaching. We encourage people to adopt online teaching, and also competence-based learning to make sure that people learned in a different way. We also introduced entrepreneurship and innovation into the curriculum and even established centers to support that because of the fact that we wanted to produce students who are really ready or aware of what was happening in the community. Then, of course, as I said, the postgraduate programs was really not efficiently run.
Right.
Said, as some institutions didn't have postgraduate programs because they just concentrated on undergraduate teaching. And then those which had, it depended very much on the lecturers. How many students supervise, how to, when do they finish? So people sometimes took a long time then to get into that and really clean up the postgraduate offerings, which also worked. And then, of course, when it came to efficient operation of the university, we look at mobility between campuses to minimize that, management of meetings. Connectivity was very important, internet connectivity, to make sure that campus were properly connected, and also library services were very important to have a good network, be able to have the same services on the different campuses.
Right.
Then, when it came to improving research productivity, to look at staff PhD, supervision capacity building, PhD enrollment and graduation, and also publication capacity building. Then change management, as I said, I mentioned the three groups, but I think the key was communication, sharing information, having incentives in place, like I mentioned, the performance-based promotion, and then also encouraging staff or facilitating staff to attend conferences abroad for exposure. And then, of course, those who publish or those who got grants, they had some benefits from the research grants they attracted. And then, of course, a lot of our time was spent on developing policies and procedures to make sure that the institution operated in a very harmonized manner. Now, the measure of not only challenges, it also had dividends. Because of the things that we did, there are many benefits actually. Because, for example,
I was about to ask
the number of graduates increased. In 2013, 2014, we had about 8,200 graduates, but by 2022, 2023, by the way, I left the University of Rwanda in 2020. But of course, some of the changes the benefits that we are carrying after 2020 was a result of what we did in between there.
2013.
So by 2022, 2023, we had about 8,900 graduates.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
There was an increase in PhD enrollment, an increase in PhD graduates. For example, in 2013, 2014, we had only 2 PhD graduates. Last year, there were 38. So you can see the increase. Then staff with PhDs, I mentioned, they were around 2013, 2014, that was about 15%. Now it's over 30%.
That is good.
Staff with PhDs. And then research output was probably the biggest improvement. I'm sure you also know because you
Yes, I remember. I also helped prepare the report for that. Yes, yes.
Exactly. So now in 2010, before the measure, we had about 13.1 publications per million of population.
Yes.
But by 2021, it had gone to 367.6. Almost an exponential increase. The other dividend was that we got a lot of government support.
Yes.
Government was very supportive in terms of facilitation and also financing. But also the support of the government enabled us to attract donor funding.
Right.
We got funded by like CIDA, which CIDA was probably the most comprehensive one in terms of supporting research, teaching and learning, infrastructure, libraries, and they're still continuing now. By the way, the University of Rwanda was the only one with 4 centers of excellence funded by the World Bank in Eastern and Central Africa.
Yes,
then AFDB also funded some research centers and also the EAC. And those research centers were very instrumental in contributing to increase research productivity. Because
that is true.
They attracted talent for research. They trained PhD students and also master's students. but also because of the increase in research productivity, PhD students, staff confidence, it led to participation in many international research networks. One of them is Arua. University of Rwanda is a member of Arua, which is the African Research University Alliance, which I think is a good thing. And also, University of Rwanda featured in some of the rankings, the Web of Universities.
Yes.
And they're improving a lot compared to other universities in East Africa.
Region.
So it had challenges. I think it was a good thing that the merger was formed. And despite the challenges, I think there are a lot of achievements which would not have been achieved if the higher education sector had remained as fragmented as it was before the merger.
Yeah. So I think from what you're sharing with me, and I'm actually honored to have been part of the journey towards the tail end of it, is particularly when it came to highlighting the growth, putting together the report on University of Rwanda's performance, research performance over the years, to the point that it had made it to the Webometrics rankings as one of the top 100 universities in Africa. But I feel that this was a strategic decision made by the government to make to have higher education as a contribution to not only the knowledge economy, but also as a way of revenue generation to the government, through whether it is through national applications from researchers at the country level or at an internationalization level, and also most importantly to turn the university into a research intensive institution. So it is something most governments are still struggling with, where universities, some of the universities are stuck in the lens of just teaching, and not also looking at teaching and conducting research. And because also, out of research, you end up having innovations and commercializations. So there's such a ripple effect on the contribution of when a university is made a research intensive institution. So that was a strategic decision made by the government, and I can actually see and understand why there was a bit of resistance, because for some of the stakeholders, things were working. But if you want to become, if you want to generate revenue from the university, teaching students is not enough. You need to have innovations coming out and commercializations coming out of it. But most importantly, also attracting some of the top funders who can also support the research. So this was it was a step in the right direction. But it's quite interesting to see your involvement in this process. So by the time you retired, you took a break, and then you became the International Research and Innovation Manager for Coventry University's Africa Hub. Would you say that the internationalization of higher education through such initiatives is considered a key priority for the Rwandan government? And if so, what strategic benefits and impact does Rwanda aim to unlock through such efforts as what you're doing with the Coventry University in Africa, in the Africa Hub?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This was another opportunity to engage to be active in international education, or in higher education, in research, and also in innovation. So when the opportunity arose, I took it, and it was even more attractive because it was the hub was based in Rwanda, where I'd been, and it enabled me to continue engaging with the higher education sector now, not just in Rwanda, but also in Africa south of the Sahara. To come back to your question, yes, Rwanda, I think the strategy of Rwanda is to be a hub of a number of things, whether it's education, whether it's health, and you've seen they are very efficient in support structures for IT, for conferences, and so on. So they support the presence of institutions that are going to add value to the higher education objectives. And there are a number of institutions here which are working, apart from Coventry University is having a presence. We have, for example, the Carnegie Mellon University.
Right.
It is sister campuses in the US, but it's based here. You have the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences, AIMS. It is based here. You have also the African Leadership University. It is based in Kigali. And all these are international higher learning institutions. So they attract not only the best faculties, but they also attract students internationally. So you have now these institutions are also collaborating with local institutions. So already there is a cross culture of expertise, culture in terms of people, and also of knowledge and research capacity building. Governments, for some of them, government supports students to go and study there. They've also given them land to build. For the Carnegie Mellon, ALU, and also the AIMS. AIMS is also having a piece of land to develop where they can establish themselves. In addition to these, you've got other universities from Uganda, the University of East Africa. Kenya is Mount Kenya University. It had a campus here for a long time, but now that campus has been turned into a university that is associated with Mount Kenya University, but it has a name of Mount Kigali University.
Right.
It is still associated with MKU in Kenya, but now the only difference is that it is a fully-fledged university. Remember before, students from the MKU campus in Rwanda used to go to Kenya for graduation. Now this Mount Kigali University will be awarding degrees, which I think is a development. But again, it is internationally initiated. So the University of Rwanda, the government of Rwanda is supportive of the presence of higher learning institutions from outside, as long as they comply with the Higher Education Council requirements. There's no problem. But it is a big advantage because of the, as I said, cross-pollination, not just of cultures, but of the knowledge, research experience, and so on. For example, I know like Carnegie Mellon University has a research organization which is funding research for people in Rwanda and even outside. Okay. So it's called Kigali Collaborative Research Center.
Right.
And people are benefiting from that, which wouldn't have happened if, for example, it was outside. So it's a good thing to bring in the international aspect in here. Now, the Coventry University is collaborating with a number of institutions here, University of Rwanda, Rwanda Polytechnic, and even other organizations, because we don't just look at academics and research, we also look at innovation and enterprise. We participate in short courses and capacity building in terms of leadership training and so on. So it is a sort of an economic partner in terms of development initiatives undertaken by different countries. And we operate, as I said, not just in Rwanda, but in South Africa, south of the Sahara. But now we are mainly in Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Nigeria, Mauritius, Ghana, and South Africa.
Okay. So it is safe to say that the government of Rwanda has a very strong, particularly the Ministry of Higher Education, has a very strong internationalization strategy for its higher education sector. And it transcends on collaboration. You're looking at transnational education, you're looking at mobility as well. Okay. Yeah. With the objective of making Rwanda a hub for regional and international education. Am I right in saying that? Okay.
You're right. And also when you have this kind of international higher learning institutions, they attract research.
Right.
They attract also a number of organizations, international organizations, which when they're in here, they provide opportunities for these universities to do consultancy, to do research for them, which again is of benefit to the country. It becomes like a regional center for knowledge because of this interaction between higher learning institutions and the industries and other organizations in the country.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So as someone who has held prominent leadership positions across universities in multiple African countries. How have you approached the challenge of improving the quality of higher education in Africa while ensuring continental and global competitiveness? What are the critical focus areas and priorities you believe universities across Africa should emphasize to ensure this?
Okay. I think, first of all, for any university to be relevant, to be credible, it's important that it aspires to produce graduates who are fit for purpose. So it means
Right.
that the graduates that come from must be recognized for being useful to the society,
Yes.
apart from being useful to themselves. Otherwise, as a university, you are not making impact. So you are irrelevant in terms
Right.
of the community where you are. So that's the first thing as a university should aspire to do. Then you should engage in relevant and contextual and impactful research. Because
Right.
then if you will be addressing problems that are pertinent in the community, in the
Right.
country, in the
Right.
region, and therefore people seek your advice, and so again you become relevant. Thirdly,
Right.
the university, because it's a center for higher learning, they do research. It's important for university to have innovation and enterprise agenda. And
Right.
that has to be integrated in the curriculum, so students are trained in that particular area. And even when they graduate, they continue with the same kind of learning, so that they support SME, they support governments, and so on.
Right.
And then the other aspect, as a university, it's important to engage into what we call continuous education programs.
Okay. Okay.
It means that your graduates who go out into the community, they want to polish their knowledge. So they
Right.
must feel at ease to come back and get more knowledge. And
Right.
through interaction with those graduates, it can also help you in shaping your curriculum so that it remains relevant. So having said that, what can they do?
Right.
One of them, of course, is participation in networks. North-South, South-South.
Mm.
And for this, I have an example. For example, now, Arua, which I mentioned before, the
Right.
African Research Universities Alliance,
Mm.
has partnered with the Guild, which is a
Mm.
group of universities in Europe, and they are
Yes.
supporting centers of research excellence in a number of universities that are in Africa. So, and also this collaboration involves universities from the North, and they are participating in research on public health, green transition, innovation. And these areas happen to be also the research area, the areas for support by EU-AU innovation agenda. So you can see that there's that universities tap into those networks. Nairobi is a member, Makerere is a member,
Yes.
Muhimbili, and quite a number. University of Rwanda is also a member of Arua. There are also universities in Ibadan, Ghana, all over Africa, in South Africa as well, Stellenbosch, Wits, Cape Town. And because of this network, you find that the universities in Africa are able to engage, one, in research that is relevant to the communities, but also they are tapping onto the knowledge and the expertise and even facilities that are available from the universities in the North to be able to work together. So that in itself, you leverage on the networks to be able to do research that is impactful globally. And then, of course, I mentioned the World Bank. It funded centers of excellence in West Africa and Central Africa, in East Africa and Southern Africa. And these were responsible for producing high quality research that is addressing problems that are relevant in the societies. But also these centers are networking with other centers outside Africa, in Europe, in America, in Australia. And again, there's high quality research being generated from Africa through this collaboration. The other thing which I think universities need to do to be relevant is having effective, and I emphasize on effective, collaboration with industry. Because if you are a university without any linkages with industry, again, you are not being impactful and you are not being relevant. And through these collaborations, you can establish even technology parks or even science parks where industry and the university faculty can get together and students and do research, which is relevant, and also if you call it translational research, because it is research that is collaborating with the industry to address problems that are relevant in the communities. And I earlier mentioned it's important for universities to also have innovation hubs and also introduce entrepreneurship into the curriculum. This is important because you're actually enabling the young people who are bright minds, very innovative. You are giving them opportunities to be innovative, but also carry their innovations forward even when they go into the community. So it's important that universities have innovation hubs. You have examples of this. Kenyatta University has got this channel for innovation and business center. It's very important. University of Rwanda, Carnegie Mellon. You go to Nelson Mandela African Institute of Science and Technology. So many universities are getting into the fact that they need to establish these innovation to give the young people an opportunity to be creative, innovative, and contribute to addressing the problems that are relevant. But also another thing is that universities need to collaborate with the diaspora. You know, there are many people in the diaspora who originally were at universities in Africa.
Yes.
But now where they are, they've got networks, they've got access to advanced facilities, they've got even funding. So if we collaborate, there is an opportunity to benefit in terms of, first of all, you can access their expertise. They come short-term lecturers. They can supervise jointly, but also some of them even raise funds to support equipment purchase, even building laboratories. And now with the new technology of metaverse, it is possible for students in Africa to experience laboratory conditions or scenarios existing in Europe, in America, because of metaverse technology, which I think can be facilitated through the diaspora. So with these initiatives, the universities remain relevant. They do research that is relevant to the continent, but then with access to knowledge and facilities through the networks, they're able to make impactful initiatives that are relevant to solving problems that are in the continent, but leveraging on international expertise, which I think is very, very useful.
Okay. So now, as we wind up, and as you also reflect on your career, what principles or mindsets would you impart on the next generation of academic leaders in Africa striving to drive transformative change within the higher education sector, or rather within their respective higher education institutions?
I think what we can say that is a fact, and even if looking at even 10, 20 years back, there's a lot of transformation in higher education. Be it in curriculum, be it in the way of teaching, be it in research, be it in the relevance of the higher learning institution and interaction with the societies. If you go back, universities were even given this name of ivory towers because they are sort of aloof. But now we are moving into a situation whereby universities actually want to be integrated in the society so that they participate, they're inclusive in trying to find solutions to the problems that exist in the society. They need to train students that are relevant. So that transformation has happened. So if you're a leader of an academic institution, you have to accept that you are going to face a challenge in terms of having to address changes. So you need to be ready to lead an institution that is dynamic, that is not conservative, that is aware of the changes in the society and be able to change, to adapt to those changes. So you should strive to produce an institution that is current and relevant to students and the community. Otherwise, you'll be left on the side. Secondly, I think it's important for the leader of an institution to be proactive in exploring new opportunities for relevance and growth. So which means it's important for a university to engage with national, regional and global developmental agendas. We talk of AU 2063, we talk of SDGs. So an institution that is not aware of this, and therefore preparing students to be able to address these kind of agendas, I think it is highly relevant. As part of addressing SDGs, you have the, you call it the SDN network. This is Sustainable Development Solutions Network, which really enables universities to participate in the different aspects of SDGs and how they're addressing, whether it's green campuses, whether it is looking at how to address problems of energy use, energy efficiency, and they become exemplary in that case. So you, as a university, must engage in those agendas. Otherwise, you'll be left by the wayside. And then, of course, as a leader of an academic institution, you should not be scared of changes or transformation. These are necessary. If they are necessary to be able to adapt to the changing situation, I think it's important to go with those ones. And maybe what I can say finally is that in any transformative space, if you are dealing with transformation, you need to be prepared to learn from each other. There are things which you know as a leader, but you can't lead alone. So you need to be able to communicate properly, be accommodative in such a way that people can be able to follow you in terms of where you want to lead the institution. So be communicative, be accommodative. And I think also in terms of leading the institution, be prepared to network and learn from others in terms of shared experience. Networks are very important. You can't isolate yourself and think what you are doing. So being member of these networks, like IUCA is a network,
Association of African Universities.
Yeah, that's a network. You have also Sarua is a network for universities in SADC. So these are there, but then also you have networks in Europe and so. So being part of those networks, you learn a lot, either in academic leadership, in university leadership, in terms of improving research programs. So it's important not to isolate yourself as a leader, but I think it's important also to be communicative and accommodative, because if you do that, you address the fears of people who are scared of changes among their staff. Otherwise, it is a journey, but I think it is a very interesting journey because, education is key. And research is also key, because without research, there'll be no industrialization, there'll be no... So all these are in universities. So these are very important aspects. The university is a very important institution in terms of, or if you can say higher learning institutions are very important in terms of dealing with national agendas, global agendas, and educating the population at large, whether in the universities or even outside.
All right. Thank you so much. This has been a very interesting interview, and I've learned so much, especially when it comes to dealing with organizational change within the higher education sector, which I understand is quite techy. And you are able to handle this very well in not one, but in two countries, one in South Africa, and which had also some historical challenges as well. And also now with Rwanda, with just the objective of making universities competitive. So thank you so much. This has been very enlightening, and I hope you will enjoy the rest of the podcast that you'll be able to listen to from Mazungumzo. Thank you so much, Professor Ijumba.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
goodbye
you,
for
Joy,
now.
for the invitation, and goodbye to you and goodbye to the listeners.
Okay.
And thank you for the good job you are doing to promote capacity building in research and publication. I think TCC is doing a good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank you so
bye.
much for the
Bye.
support.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye for now.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode of Mazungumzo podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on all our channels for more updates and for candid stories by researchers, policymakers, higher education leaders, and innovators on their journeys. See you in our next episode.